Hello everyone, if you are watching this video probably you know that Normals MTB hashtag relates to Latvian cross-country marathon races, but in case if you didn't know that, well, now you know, and you can search for that hashtag on social media and figure out what that Normals is. And otherwise you can just watch this video and you will figure it out yourself quite soon, what Latvian marathon races looks like. Here we are at the starting line of second day in Talsi. It's fifth stage of 2022 season, and we are going to run full marathon distance here for 50 kilometers or so. It's Sunday, we already raced on Saturday. It was rainy, it was very muddy conditions. I talked with a few Latvians and they said that what was during this weekend was worst time ever in terms of the muddiness and slipness. So that's a good timing, Thomas. You are very good and picking up time of the race. But yeah, that was interesting, and we are going into start really soon here. My starting bib for this race was 66. For probably the first time this season, I managed to take a good place in the starting gate, so that's a good thing. You can see me going there with orange helmet on the side. And we are straight into the uphill. Actually, everyone pushes there quite hard. And even though there are a lot of area where to go and there's not limited amount of space on this hill, you can see that everyone pushing really hard, and that was few Lithuanians which supported me by shouting at the starting line, so thanks Tadas and Davis. It was nice of you, and even though I only heard after passing you by, but I heard that, and that was inspiring. I will add some points about the tires and other things which I started one day before this one happened. But here I realized that probably putting 1.3 and 1.4 pressure wasn't a good idea, because I could hardly keep up the speed of the ones who were going up front, no matter how hard I tried. So I assume that it was because of low tire pressure and not because not powerful enough legs, I should say. And this guy get in front, notice that I'm behind, and made a move. Yeah, so I just informed him that his face was captured and he can go ahead and continue pushing. So you can see that first lap was quite fast and quite powerful with 329 watts. And here I failed to run this uphill, even though I did successfully yesterday and even on this race day, but for some reason, probably emotions of the start made me not to climb that one.
Trying.
Yeah, someone from behind encouraged to push even further, but after a few moments I just allowed him to go in front, because I wasn't that fast like he was. And you can see that whenever I put extra effort to just try to catch someone in front, I made just a tiny skid to the side or just a mistake, and then all your efforts goes away and you can just try again or leave them off and go at your own pace. This was a pretty steep uphill, and everyone was looking for better traction, and this guy almost pushed me into an arrow, so thanks for him. Actually, the conditions of the track was a bit better in the beginning of the race, because there was no rain after yesterday's race during the night probably, and it if it can be said, it managed to be a bit drier than yesterday. But on this slight downhill, I figure out that probably my tire choices didn't make much of a difference on such mud. So yeah, here I understood that if I don't have enough time to drink during being on the bike, I shall spend that moment then walking and just try to add some liquids into my mouth. So about the tires, on Saturday I was very angry about Racing Grace and Racing Ralphs that they hadn't offered me enough traction and just overall skid like crazy. So I wasn't exactly sure whether I'm going to start this race on Sunday because of the reasons. But in the morning I decided that, well, if I'm here, why should I try to avoid what's uncomfortable? And even though there are various things to consider why to skip such race, but I decided not to. What I did in the morning is that I changed Racing Race and Ralph with Rocketrons, because I had one. It's also 225 width, but I think that even though they didn't help much on the corners, because if it gets muddy it doesn't help much, but on the uphills they were a bit better in my opinion. They didn't attract that much mud, and as soon as you start rolling, the mud just drops off. And yeah, on uphills I felt that Rocketrons was a better thing to do, and this probably was the best part of the race, even though it was very climby and steep. It was relatively dry, and it was nice to finally have some traction and put that effort right into the ground and not somewhere in between. Yeah, so continuing my thought about the tire, you probably already have guessed it that I love technical details and I love exploring such things, so it was one of the ways how I could add that extra knowledge to my baggage by just tubuling new tires and see whether they will be better or not. And at least in my humble opinion, I believe that that made a difference. I decided to drink here, but once I noticed the edge, I decided I shall put the bottle back into the cage, because who knows, maybe I will went off the edge. So because I didn't know this part of the race, this part of the track, it wasn't included yesterday's race, I just decided to better keep it safe. And you can see that I'm trying to keep up with the guys in front for quite a while, and whenever there are uphills I manage to maintain that distance and not allow them to go too much in front. and the gap doesn't increase, but whenever it becomes technical, you can see how it goes. So once that pump track area finalized, the rain started, and we are going back again into the mud. Funny thing is that normally I tend to don't like going on the grass sections because it rolls not as good as on other parts of the track. But during this race, the moment when we went on the grass was one of the best ones. So yeah, sorry grass, my apologies. And you can see that we are already 20 kilometers into the race, and I averaged 286 watts in this fourth lap, so I'm kind of maintaining same or similar power output at least for the first hour of the race. How it will continue, we will see. You can see here that those guys which were in front no longer there, not because I managed to overtake them, it's because they just run away. And it didn't happen because of my mistakes or just resting too much. I put a lot of effort to keep up with them, but they were just both ways flying and didn't made any mistakes at all, so all uphills were good for them, and they managed to take them without any problems. So do I, but they were just stronger, and that was it. On Saturday, even though it was a bit more muddier here, it was impossible to climb, but you can see that better trajectory of rolling, as well as maybe a bit drier conditions, and I managed to go on that uphill kind of errors free and without any issues. So because the rain started, everything on the course become a lot more dirty, and just the way it was. So even when you are walking on the course, you have to choose a good way where to put your legs and where to put your shoes, because otherwise clipless just becomes enormously full of mud, and once you go on the bike, it's not that easy to clip in. And on Strava I have a photo how my ankles looked like after the race, so not always I managed to clip it in from the first go, and if you can imagine what happens when you don't, that's good. And if you can't, you can check my Strava and see it from the first sight. So in such an area as you can see here, I very much doubt whether I would be able to climb those with racing Ralph, because it just attracts too much dirt in my opinion. But still I wonder what's better, whether wider tire, narrower tire, more grip, less grip. So if you have your experience, it would be much appreciated if you shared it into the comments, so that way maybe if similar conditions appears, someone who haven't ridden such trails.
From now on, joke will have a different meaning. If you open the dictionary and try to find the word joke, it will be Talsi in rain.
Yeah, it was a bit of irony from me, as I was 1 hour and 30 minutes, so it's half the course distance, and I was a bit exhausted by that time. So yeah, about the tires, last comment here is that if someone didn't participate in such race, they would know what selection they should make in order to suffer a bit less, if we can say that. And a few moments ago you noticed that there was a guy in orange jersey, so he was like a lighthouse for me, which I'm trying to catch for majority of second part of the race. However, it was unsuccessful. Whenever I managed to get closer to him, he then just went on the bike or just added more power to the pedals, and I couldn't catch him. So probably it's someone from Sigulda team or something like that. And you can see that it's 5 kilometers per hour, a bit of a grade, but moving real slow here. And what I could say about the amount of participants on the race is that on the Saturday there was 140 participants registered for marathon distance. Only 112 have participated. Maybe some didn't arrive at all for other reasons than poor weather conditions, but you can see that it's 30 participants less than they registered. And even more interesting numbers was on the second day, on Sunday, where registered participants amount was 142. And keep in mind that on Saturday there was 112 who entered the race, and on Sunday it was 84. So that sums it all about the choices of everyone's to whether participate in the race or not. It's 35 kilometers into the race. You can see that I'm already averaging 246 watts, and it's not going to be an easy one. Here I managed to catch the leader of woman. It's Katrina Kipure. Yeah, so I overtook her 2 hours into the race, but usually, as I noticed, she's one of the few women who participated in the marathon distance, and she's almost always the first one. So this was a devastating thing, that you can see someone walking faster than you are climbing on the bike. But well, yeah, so the reason why I stopped here is because there was
go on, guys.
a wood on the ground, and I couldn't turn the wheel out from it, so there was no other option. And here you can see that there are half marathon distance participants who run half marathon, and they actually started a bit afterwards, and we are already
Thanks.
Nice.
in the merge of the track. Whenever I noticed that they are coming from the back, I just passed them by, and that's end of the story, because probably that's some of the leaders from half marathon distance. And funny thing that even though 2 times on the Sunday I didn't manage to run this part, 20 minutes remaining to the finish, I just went it through like it's nothing. And it's funny because here I was already struggling somewhat around 8 kilometers towards the finish of the race. Probably I ate not enough gels during the race. I managed to eat 4 or 5 of them, and also I had Marathon 320 in one of my bottles, but it didn't help, and At least half an hour towards the finish, I was kind of struggling and just trying to survive, and you will see that my wattage also dropped significantly, and here I am completely out of focus and out of powers. And towards the end of the race, in this section, 3 or 4 participants overtook me, and I just passed them by because it was a disaster for me. So you can see that 216 watts, so that sums it all.
Go. Yeah,
Yeah, because I was completely exhausted.
Go.
I just allow them to go.
Okay. Thanks.
And here, more than 200 meters left to the finish. Surprise, surprise, the chain dropped again. And knowing that I was completely exhausted and tired and didn't felt well here, it was a really bummer here. So it took a while for me to put it in. So you can see Katrina managed to catch me here, and I just walking here and thinking whether I should try it or not, but eventually I decided that I should try to climb it. But the thing here is that I didn't had shifting here, so the shifting just stuck, and I was running at the lowest or close to lowest gear, and then everyone started to cheer up, and I decided to push it through. I tried to increase the gear, but it didn't work out, and then eventually it went like 4 or 5 gears in a single moment, and I was not able to pedal it and had to drop off the bike. And actually the chain dropped again. So that was the finish of second day. So you can see that even though visuals doesn't represent my struggle here, it was very poor performance on the last few kilometers for me. And by the time I reached this food point, I was totally exhausted, and the only thing I wanted to do is to put something into my mouth. So here my girlfriend asked what's happened for me, but I just said I'm going to eat. So that was it. Thanks for the time, and I will upload full on board as well. Until next time.